I want to talk about my AfricaBP story, which I started saying that I can describe it as a success. And success, people define success differently. For me, I define it as a point where hard work meets opportunity. And this hard work started somewhere. And this is where I had done my BSc, my undergraduate. I proceeded to learn computational skills through the online platforms and also internships. Then after that, I proceeded to do my master's in bioinformatics at Pwani University. When I was done with my first year, this is when I got to know about AfricaBP. Then I had now to follow up 2023 towards the end. Then I got to know they have different committees. And since my project for master's was on genome assembly and annotation, I got interested in one of the committees, which was the genome assembly committee, and I got to go to the website for AfricaBP. I joined during one of the meetings that we do have online. There was a fellowship that was coming up, so I kept following up, when is it coming out, and also being active and participating. So when the fellowship came up, I did my application. Of course, I did get several people to review my application. And since it was also related to the work, was when the work that I was doing for my master's, I was given that opportunity to go to Morocco for a training. And in this training, I got to meet different people from the north, such as Nigeria. We had some people from Benin, some from Tunisia, and the other countries that I cannot mention. So in Morocco, we met with the African Genome Center, the scientists there. We got through the wet lab skills first, and remember, coming from a bioinformatics background, I had not interacted much with the wet lab work and what goes on with the generation of the data before I received it as a bioinformatician. So at this point, we got hands-on skills on first extracting DNA from Acacia gumifera. That's the plant that we aimed to sequence. It's an acacia plant that is common in Morocco. So we got to extract the DNA, and from there did the library preparation, loaded it, and then did the Illumina sequencing. So these are some of the colleagues that we were there with in the lab and also in the bioinformatics part of it. So that's now the short story of the fellowship. Now, I would like to acknowledge UM6P, University of Mohammed VI Polytechnic. This was the hosting institution, and we hosted under the African Genome Center. I could also like to thank African BioGenome Project for providing the platform, and also ICIPE, which facilitated my movement to and fro in Morocco. Thank you, and I welcome any question.
So thank you very much. I think you have been able to see the connection, that once you join the movement, you can find your space within it. And through this competitive process, we are able to link you with partners. We have partners in Ethiopia, we have partners in DRC. The partner that was hosting this particular fellowship was UM6 Polytechnic in Morocco. The African Genome Center in Morocco is a state-of-the-art facility, and they have high-throughput systems. So we were able to ship our AfricaBP fellows, and they spent some time there. But what has it been like for you since? Did the fellowship help you in any way? Did it assist or upgrade or enhance your skills in any way? Or well, you don't have to say it if you didn't, but was it the networks that you developed there, or what was it? Was there any learning from that? Thank you.
Yes, because could say it inspired me to now get back to the wet lab. There before, I couldn't really like to go to wet lab and get to know how the data is generated. But after this, I have had several interactions in the lab, whereby I've been yearning now to understand how is the libraries prepared, how are they loaded to the sequence machines, then the various parameters that are set to generate the data. So it has helped me to go back to the wet lab and to get to understand the process, which I previously thought it requires advanced skills. But after that fellowship, I've been getting now back to the wet lab. And also, could say in various opportunities. I could say in the different opportunities that I've gotten, could it be for PhDs and my current place here at Walter Reed's. It has been one of the key things that I point out where I got started with the wet lab and how I connect it with the bioinformatics skills.
Yeah.
I'm curious to how much money you spent going there, and how long was your fellowship, and how many African fellows were you there with? And then I think Thank God also has some questions. You can answer mine. It was fully funded or partially
funded? So it was okay. It was fully funded as the fellowship. Okay. When I was offered the fellowship, I had to go now and approach ICP, where I was working, to provide the transport only to and from. Then everything was catered for by the African Genome Center at UN6P.
Thank you for that. Thank God.
Thank you, Fredrick. Thank you, Professor Mugai. So just kind of adding to what Fredrick mentioned, one of the biggest challenge as a bioinformatician that one would have, and I think this would also be applicable to everyone on the call and others on site, is that oftentimes we have a bioinformatician who is purely a bioinformatician without understanding or having the experience of the wet lab. And again, oftentimes we have a wet lab person who is a purely wet lab without also understanding the aspect of the bioinformatics. So during my PhD, I had the opportunity of doing both. So I did bioinformatics and did bioinformatics, genome assembly, annotation, and I also had the opportunity of staying in the lab, DNA extraction, running gel, doing tissue culture, all of those things. So it's very difficult and very stressful because your brain is trying to do two separate things at the same time and link them up. And I think which is also why, as Fredrick was talking, I could appreciate what he was appreciating. And when you do it, you may not appreciate it at that time, but when you finish that exercise and you go out and you sit in meetings and you have discussion, you would be able to connect the two disciplines in your head mentally. So, and what that means is that oftentimes you can't do that. And I think that is also one thing we are hoping that within the AfricaBP in the future we could do. That's a different thing altogether. And it's also very challenging to see people that can be able to do both or understand both essentially. But I would actually encourage everyone, if you can, if you're a wet lab, then again, try to understand or even practicalize what bioinformatician does, such that when you have a bunch of Excel spreadsheets or CSV files to analyze, and they tell you, okay, this cannot just be done by clicking a button, that you understand. And also the same thing with a bioinformatician. If you're a purely bioinformatician, perhaps coming from computer science, and you're wondering why a wet lab experiment is taking long, or this procedure is doing this X and Y. If you work in that setting, then that would help you appreciate and of course see what you can contribute. And just also to point out, Professor Ann, also Fredrick, is that we basically the fellowship was basically sponsored. Again, I'm going to talk about some of this much later. through a partnership that we had with the Mohammed University. I'm also going to talk about other fellowships we've given. So they sponsored everything in as much as once the applicant, lands in Morocco at the airport. So from that point, they sponsor everything. So the only thing was just a flight that couldn't be sponsored. And I think that is also what Fredrick and others. I also had one of the fellows who was part of that activity, I think, was either this fellow, either in your set or another set that went to University of Illinois, have gotten a fellowship position in I think in John Ennis Center or something in the UK, right? So people keep doing things, and I'm hoping we can scale this beyond what we're currently doing. Over to you, Professor Anne.
Yes, so what happens is that we are able to connect you because some of the partners and projects that we are working with, if you apply individually, they are not very confident that you will be able to achieve the objectives. But if you come and work with us and we get to know you and you're a member of our committee or our community, and we see you there, I can vouch for you. And I normally do those recommendation letters. And these recommendation letters give you an edge over many other applications. And that is how AfricaBP is also contributing to get you further training. So do your work, come and support us. We will support you. And together we will be able to jointly capacity build yourselves and your colleagues and your institutions. Dr. Thangod will speak a little bit more about the Africa BioGenome Fellows and the other fellowships that are going to come on board. Final comments, Kebaso, anything you want to say in closing?
Could just say that as you look for opportunity, you will always need a place to start from that gives you a starting point. And I could say that being interested in genome assembly and bioinformatics gave me a base to start on. And I would like to thank AfricaBP for starting this enormous project and initiative. It has been of great help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Fredrick, we wish you well in your PhD studies and in your new position. And I know AfricaBP will be there to walk the journey with you, as we will be for all the other young early career scientists. Thank you. Let's give this young scientist a round of applause. And now, as we're coming to the end of day 2, we have just 2 more talks. One is a panel session, and the other will be the talk by Dr.